I don't know if you've heard of the Jussie Smollett case, which has just been resolved in court, but it's a very interesting example of how critical race theory can go wrong. Let's have a look at it. So you've probably heard of critical race theory or systemic racism or white privilege. It's a radical and dangerous new way of thinking about human identity and value. Comes by many names: critical race theory, Marxism, intersectionality, anti-racism, identity politics. But critical theory is divisive because it reduces human interaction to the notion of us versus them. And this then feeds the very thing it claims to be fighting: racism, prejudice, resentment, self-interest. And so you get these courses, diversity and inclusion training programs, and you're told to be less white, less oppressive, and to check your privilege at the door. And if you're, amongst other things, white, or heterosexual, cis male, in other words, you believe your biological sex determines whether you're male or female, if you're able-bodied, and if you're Christian, like Christopher Luxon, you are the problem. You are guilty. And so depending on your race, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, gender identity, and disability, or a combination of those termed as intersectionality, and the more boxes you can tick, the better, you are the victim. You have been oppressed. And a classic example of this was just recently with a guy called Jussie Smollett, who you may recognize from TV. Let's just have a look at what happened in his case. So this ticked all the intersectionality boxes, didn't it? I mean, you had a gay man, a black man. He was the victim of a homophobic, racist attack. There was mention of MAGA, so it was anti-Trump as well. I mean, it just ticked all the boxes. And so therefore there was lots of media coverage. And we had the New York Times saying, you know, one of the stars of the television show Empire was attacked in Chicago. This is in January 2019. They yelled racial and homophobic slurs, and it's a possible hate crime. Of course, New Zealand media got involved as well. News Hub with hospitalised after a racially charged and homophobic attack. Stuff reported it as well, insulted in a possibly racially charged homophobic attack. The only problem, small problem, is it never happened, as we have just found out. And he has been convicted on 5 of 6 counts of basically making up the whole story. Made up the whole story, actually paid 2 people to attack him. They even rehearsed it the night before, it's believed. And so it was made to basically make up this story, but it ticked all the boxes. And so the left loved it and started reporting it. And he was pretty convincing when he was given a chance to appear on media to defend his case before it had even gone to court.
I'm pissed off.
What is it that has you so angry? Is it the attackers?
It's the attackers, but it's also the attacks. It's like, you know, at first it was a thing of like, listen, if I tell the truth, then that's it, because it's the truth. Mm-hmm. Then it became a thing of like, oh, how can you doubt that? Like, how do you not believe that? It's the truth. And then it became a thing of like, oh, it's not necessarily that you don't believe that this is the truth. You don't even want to see the truth.
Well, pretty convincing, but it hadn't gone to court, and in fact, it was found out to be completely false. Now, the amazing thing is that, as we saw with the Kyle Rittenhouse case as well, that the left immediately make a judgment without checking the true facts. If it ticks the boxes, if it supports their narrative. And so what you had was Joseph Biden, President Joe Biden, of course, at the time in January 2019, he wasn't. But he says, what happened today to Jussie Smollett must never be tolerated in this country. We must stand up and demand that we no longer give this hate safe harbour, that homophobia and racism has no place on our streets or in our hearts. We are with you, Jussie. And Kamala Harris said, Jussie Smollett is one of the kindest, most gentle human beings I know. I'm praying for his quick recovery. This was an attempted modern-day lynching. No one should have to fear for their life because of their sexuality or colour of their skin. We must confront their hate. Well, that's true. We must confront it if it actually happens. And of course, the famous people of Hollywood who are good at producing fiction, they immediately got involved as well, and because it ticked all the boxes. Here's what they had to say.
Coming to the aid of another brother that has tasted the brutality of hatred, racism, and bigotry.
In this situation, hate won't win. It will not.
You didn't deserve, nor anybody deserves, to have a noose put around your neck.
He had bleach poured onto him. This needs to stop.
He will forgive these people for what they did, but he won't, and we cannot forget their actions.
And hopefully this just opens up people's eyes. It's just what needs to stop, man. God damn, why are we going backwards?
There are a lot of evidence of violent incidents that happen at these MAGA rallies.
This is essentially terrorism, and you wonder like how deep it goes, these hateful groups that get together, or maybe hopefully it's just two people, but that's what I'm afraid of, that it's going to go a lot deeper.
Thank you for calling it terrorism, because the media does not.
It is. It's domestic terrorism.
Absolutely.
But I don't like that it's being put out there in the media that this is a possible hate crime. I think that even sows a seed that makes people feel like, well, is he making this up? Well, what is this about? I don't like that. Like, don't put that in people's minds. This man was hurt, he was injured, and he needs justice.
Yes, unfortunately, there might be a few regrets with statements that have been made, but of course it ticked all the boxes. Homophobic, racist, it was anti-Trump, and of course the mention of MAGA, which makes the left manifest, and of course it was all part of worth promoting before actually seeking out the facts, which I think we should do first when commenting on any case. We need to establish the truth. And look, we need to be honest. Racism, sexism, and discrimination are ever present. That's the sad reality of the human heart, and we need to constantly fight for a just and fair society. But that's a hard issue. Critical theory goes far beyond rightly identifying this universal human and heart problem, and it proposes a cure which is far worse than the disease. Look, the moral of the story is, from this case, beware of critical theory. It looks for victims at the expense of truth. We should always look for truth first and foremost.